DSS, DWM, CDOT collected over 5.5 million pounds of storm-damaged debris and damaged property. We dispatched city workers, including myself, to tour the hardest-hit communities to assess the damage and to hear from those directly who were impacted. And as I walked through my neighborhood, my heart ached to see the pain and the damage caused by the storm. And as you all know, the city of Chicago, we're known for a lot of different things. Our basements are just as much a part of the history of Chicago as house music and Uncle Remus. Because it's in the basements where child care is provided. It's in the basement where families provide support for individuals who need somewhere to lay their head. It's where our memories are stored. Back in the 90s is where we used to, we won't discuss that. We used to get down, Reverend Jakes, in the basement. But Reverend Jakes been saved all his life, so I'm not sure about that. But we authorize streets and sanitation workers to assist in the cleanup, prioritizing the elderly and disabled neighbors. We also made sure that my Deputy Mayor of Business and Neighborhood Development, Kenya Merritt, as well as our COO, John Robertson, joined forces with community leaders to distribute supplies to help people clean up. Here's the part that I'm incredibly impressed by, is that for the first time in the history of Chicago, we had city workers not just clearing up alleys, but literally going into the basements of residents to help them clean up and clear out the damage. That has never happened before. That's the soul of Chicago. And as long as I'm mayor of the city of Chicago, we're not going to leave anyone behind. In fact, I'm going to close with this. I was at an event on the south side of Chicago, the Silver Room, and I ran into one of our workers. And he came up to me and he said, "Thank you, Mr. Mayor." And I said, "What are you thanking me for? I haven't been in office long enough to get too many thank yous." He said, "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve our community. And I'm a part of the streets and sanitation team, and I've been going through alleys and basements to help our people recover." I said, "You're thanking me. I should be thanking you." And you know what he said? He said, "Austin raised me." He said, "It is my privilege to go help support the very families who raised me." That's what this moment has yielded. That the full force of government on full display to make sure that there's real relief for families. And so with that, I'm grateful to every level of government that has participated, as Alderwoman Mintz has already articulated. The federal government, Biden administration, thank you. To the state of Illinois, to Cook County government, to Water Reclamation District. I'm joined by my colleagues, the City Council, Alderwoman Cruz, Scott, the 30th and the 24th Ward, and to Michelle Harris. On the south side, the 8th Ward. The full force of government is on display, but I want residents and owners of businesses to go to disasterassistance.gov. The number is 800-621-3362. Or, of course, you can use the FEMA app, which we'll get into a little bit later. But thank you all, and with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Chesney. Thank you all very much.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
FEMA is here, and I'm Mike Chesney. I'm the Region 5 Deputy Regional Administrator. I'm so pleased to be standing here alongside of all of our partners, local, state, federal partners, here to share important information about federal recovery resources that are now available to individuals in Cook County who are affected by the severe storms and flooding that followed just over a month ago. First and most importantly, if you are a Cook County resident with uninsured losses from the June 29th through the 2nd of July storms and the floodings that followed, please register for federal assistance. You can do that in 3 ways, and you heard this from the mayor. Online at disasterassistance.gov, using the FEMA mobile app from your smartphone, or calling 800-621-3362. That's again 800-621-3362. If you use video relay service, caption telephone service, or other types of devices, give FEMA your number for that service. If you reported damage to local officials, and call in 311 or spoke to FEMA during our damage assessments that we conducted here in July, you are not automatically registered for FEMA assistance. You must use one of the 3 options that I just outlined to begin that process of receiving federal help. Eligible applicants may receive FEMA grant funding to include with temporary lodging expenses and uninsured or underinsured losses during basic home repairs or other disaster-related costs. I want to emphasize, FEMA assistance is not intended to get you back to where you were before the disaster. However, it is meant to help you return your home to a safe, sanitary, and functional residence, and to get you started on your road to recovery. Additional financial assistance will be available through other sources, including low-interest loans from our partners from the Small Business Administration. Getting help to those who need it most is our priority. Recovery teams will be out in our neighborhoods affected by the disaster very soon, providing one-on-one support to all of the individuals who are affected. Recovery centers will also be opening up for individuals to get individual in-person support. It is my pleasure to announce that Andrew Friend, he's going to be your friend, will be the federal coordinating officer leading the recovery operation here in Cook County. Andrew is a seasoned emergency manager, and he, along with his team of experts, are prepared to ensure that help gets to those who need it the most and as quickly as possible. I also want to recognize our strong commitment to the community and faith-based organizations throughout the affected areas here in Chicago as well as throughout the county. Marcus Coleman, who is here with us today, the director of the Department of Homeland Security Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, has joined us here today. Marcus, he's over here in the corner with the FEMA shirt. Disaster recovery is a whole community effort, and FEMA is working closely with our partners, including the U.S. Small Business Administration, Illinois Emergency Management Agency, Cook County, the City of Chicago, the private sector, voluntary organizations, and the faith community to meet the needs of disaster-impacted communities across the county. Lastly, I know that so many here have been severely impacted by this disaster. I want to commit to you that we owe it to you that we will be here as long as it takes, ensuring federal recovery resources are accessible to all who need them. Thank you. And I'll be followed by Andrew Friend.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike and Mayor and all our distinguished guests here today. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the... Good afternoon. Okay, awesome. I love it. And the sun just came out again, so we're doing great here. As mentioned, my name is Andrew Friend, and I'm the Federal Coordinating Officer for the disaster operation here in Illinois. Our FEMA team is here on the ground right now, working hard to bring federal resources to Cook County survivors. Our priority now and throughout this operation is to reduce barriers, expand access, and ensure survivors can get the assistance they need as they navigate their road to recovery. I want to encourage residents to continue cleaning up, to take photos of the damage, and to keep the receipts. If you have insurance for the damage to your home, file that insurance claim. FEMA cannot duplicate assistance from others, and insurance is often the best way and the best source of financial help when a disaster occurs. For those in Cook County who are uninsured or underinsured and have disaster losses or expenses, know that FEMA assistance is available. Those options include online at disasterassistance.gov, using the phone number, which is 800-621-3362, or also the FEMA application that can be used on a smartphone. Not only do we have multilingual operators who speak your language available when calling the FEMA hot and helpline, but also we have bilingual staff on the ground here in Cook County to provide the full support needed to these hard-hit areas. Additionally, all written products will be translated to increase accessibility and important access to recovery information for all. As Mike mentioned, we are bringing federal resources into neighborhoods, communities, and villages, and that we're going to have disaster recovery centers in these impacted areas as well. To ensure our programs are accessible to all, we're going to make sure to get where the people are. However, you don't need to physically go to a disaster recovery center to get help. You don't have to. You can start your road to recovery right now. You can do that by visiting disasterassistance.gov. That's disasterassistance.gov, downloading the FEMA mobile app, or calling 800-621-3362. We'll be here alongside our federal partners at the Small Business Administration, as well as our state, county, and local governments, and other whole community organizations to do what we can to continue to move that needle forward on getting back to a new normal for so many that were affected by this event. Before I close, I want to note that unfortunately, fraudulent activity typically increases after disasters. Con artists may try to take advantage of disaster survivors and get their personal information to steal their identity. Know that FEMA and SBA will never ask for money. We will never require payment in any form. FEMA personnel will have an official identification badge, so always ask to see the ID. If you're unsure whether someone is who they say they are, you can call the FEMA hotline to verify if they're actually FEMA employees. We know the past month has been difficult, and we're committed to doing what we can to lessen the struggle and support progress towards long-term recovery across the county. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Greg Nimmo, who is the IEMA State Coordinating Officer and Recovery Branch Chief, and he's also my counterpart in this disaster. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So well, I tell you, this is all right. Hey, so I will tell you, going into this, I hope you understand that you've heard the phone number 3 times, you've heard the website 3 times, you've heard you can download an app on your smartphone 3 times. I want to tell you it works. It works successfully. In fact, to date, last 24 hours, there's been over 8,000 registrants already.
Oh, wow.
So that is a huge number to get us started. That's just a simple start. So keep in mind, with that information, please, those that can do that, do that. We anticipate there's probably going to be some crowds at some of these locations when the building actually open up and you can walk in and get some help there one-on-one. We understand that there's probably going to be a little bit of line in that. That being the case, that's certainly fine. But if you have the skills and ability to do that online, please do so is what we'd ask you to do. Share that with the people that you know, share it with your neighborhood. So, starting today, we as the government are here to help on the road to recovery when it comes to the funding models to help where we can. Government has limited roles. You can do certain things. We have certain powers, certain parameters, certain laws, certain things we have to operate under. I will tell you today, we're bringing the full force of everything we got to the table for you. So that's key. The FEMA and SBA programs you have today, again, you heard it mentioned, are for the road to recovery. They're not to make you whole, but they're to get you back on your feet where you got a safe place to live and some place to sleep and get you going on that. I also wanted to tell you, not to be braggadocious, but the partnerships that I develop here, these folks back here are no longer just other government peers, they're friends. We've become friends through this process. There's people in neighborhoods. I will tell you, the very first street that I went to, the very first time I got out of my government vehicle, I made about 10 steps, and a lady who is probably about 6'3", larger lady come running down the sidewalk with her hands wide open. I didn't know whether to run, hide, what to do, and she gave me a hug, about broke my ribs. So she said, I am so glad you're here. That set the tone for me. As a state coordinating officer, I tell my staff all the time, our goal is to help people. Anything you bring to my table, if you're an employee of mine, I want to know how it helps people. That's the question I always ask my staff. So we are excited to be here. We're excited to help. We're excited to have our FEMA partners to the table, make some new friends up here in Northern Illinois, and make this happen. So I also want to encourage you that this road is not easy. Those of you who've been at this for a month and a half already know this is not easy at all. It's not fun. It's just a bad place to be. But I will tell you, a couple things I want to encourage you with. Do not give up. We heard Alderman talk about having the hope and the faith and the mustard seeds and moving them mountains. She's right. We have to have those things. And I will also tell you, you really have a big responsibility here when FEMA starts reaching out really intently to you and your neighborhoods and your communities. Here's what it is, and here's something that we struggle with no matter where we have disaster, is people answering their phone because they don't recognize the number or failing to call back. If you do that several times, there's a chance you might get put on a hold list, and until you reach out, nobody's going to help you, okay? So really make sure you're sharing the word. Hey, if there's somebody out there and you get a weird phone call and you've registered for FEMA, today's the day you better pick that one up and just see who it is first and get the help that you need. The other thing is, you know, and I've seen this in the neighborhoods we go to, you know, somebody will say, hey, this is the third largest city in the United States, you know, a lot of people, so on and so forth. Yeah, but it's made up of a bunch of neighborhoods. That's the key thing, you know, and there's neighborhoods all across America, every part of every state. There's neighborhoods everywhere. These neighborhoods are no different. So here's the key to success: neighbor helping neighbor. You know, there's going to be people that, you know, right now, if I ask you, is there somebody going to struggle to get registered? Y'all would say, yeah, there's somebody I know. Get with them to get registered. Go over there and set online. FEMA will have some services available. If you identify that person, we can work with you to help get that person registered. So there's a lot of things coming your way. You're going to see some physical facilities open up. It's going to take a little time because there's a lot of people, buildings to lease, locations to establish, things to happen, but that's all in progress and has been since the end of last week. So we are working on this very intently. So with that being said, the last thing I want to assure you, and I say this to every disaster that we go to in the state of Illinois, when it comes to the recovery side of this thing, my goal as a recovery officer for the state of Illinois is to leave no stone unturned. I don't want to leave here and then see on the news story, well, nobody ever helped them. But you can help me by neighbor helping neighbor and making sure that word gets where it's got to go. The other thing is, I'm going to encourage you, you heard about the fraud, also understand rumors are coming. Just because the person in the neighborhood that tells the most stories in the neighborhood when y'all get together says something doesn't mean it's gospel truth. All right? So that being the case, if you have a question, there's phone numbers, call, find out. Go to the DRC, find out. Go online, read the information. Don't take it as gospel truth and convince yourself you're not going to apply just because of what you heard. If you do that, you're doing you and your family and everybody else a disservice. So again, neighbor helping neighbor, and let's get some work done and get some help to the people who need it most right now. Thank you. And I would like to introduce Executive Director of Cook County EMRS, Mr. Ted Berger.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ted Berger, and I serve as the Executive Director for Cook County's Department of Emergency Management and Regional Security. We support Cook County's 134 suburban municipalities before, during, and after a crisis occurs. I am grateful to be here today on behalf of Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle as we share this important announcement regarding federal disaster assistance for our residents impacted by the storms and the flooding that occurred on July 2nd. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Mayor Johnson, as well as the Cook County Commissioners that are joining us today, Commissioner Aguilar, Commissioner Gordon, and Commissioner Stamps. Your advocacy and support throughout this process is absolutely appreciated. We would like to thank our partners with the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Illinois Emergency Management Agency as well. This declaration marks a significant milestone as we take another step toward recovery from an overwhelming circumstance encountered by thousands of residents across Cook County. On behalf of President Preckwinkle, I wish to express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to President Biden and Governor Pritzker for their commitment to Cook County's recovery and ultimately all of our resiliency. As emergency managers, we recognize that no two disaster responses are the same. It is critical that we approach each and every response with compassion and empathy, and that we also bring a focused, relentless drive to pursue every available resource to help our residents and our individual communities along this long road to recovery. On the evening of July 2nd, and in the days since this incident occurred, Cook County has responded to support our municipal partners. We've coordinated equipment deployments during the response, including assistance with debris management in several communities. EMRS personnel worked alongside each impacted community for weeks to conduct damage assessments critical to securing this federal aid. Our staff have worked closely with our municipal leaders, documenting the damages experienced and gathering the necessary data to tell the story of what happened and the many lives and homes disrupted. On Tuesday, July 11th, after roughly 10 days of gathering reports and documentation, President Preckwinkle declared a county-wide disaster, advancing this process. This work, like so much of the work we do in emergency management, requires seamless coordination between municipal, county, state, and federal agencies. It is also a strong example of these partnerships in action, in the service of our residents and the communities in which they reside. While this announcement marks a meaningful milestone, the true work of bringing assistance back to our residents continues. Cook County will be here each and every step of the way as we share a commitment and an obligation to help our residents rebuild their homes and their lives. Thank you, and with that, I'd like to invite Cook County Commissioner Frank Aguilar to the microphone.
Thank you, Ted. First of all, I'd like to thank Cook County Board President Tony Purbrinkle and Ted, Executive Director of Cook County Emergency, Ted Berger, for their first responding to the urgent need on the day of the storm. This is where it all started. I want to thank my colleagues on the board of Cook County to support our residents. I'd like to support elected officials, Governor Pritzker for declaring this a disaster, and our President Biden for his support, and IEMA, Illinois Management, and FEMA. Thank you for being here, and Mayor Johnson, thank you very much. But this is not the end. We have a lot of work to do. Right now, people are just cleaning up, and I'd like to also thank our first responders, the water department, and the public works who were out there firsthand helping our residents clean up and address emergency situations in their homes. I like to stress, we need federal support, federal investment in our water system and the water rec. This is not going to go away, and this is going to get worse. We cannot continue waiting for more and more storms to come and devastate our communities. So I'd like to emphasize again, we need federal support. I like to urge Congress and our President to please, we need your help in Cook County. This is an example of how all levels of government comes together. The western suburbs, the mayors of the western suburbs, and with Mayor Johnson and the city of Chicago, and all levels of government, state, federal, county, and local. We all come together to assist our residents. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague on the board, Commissioner Tara Stamps.
No, Monica.
Oh, I'm sorry. My colleague, Monica Gordon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our President Joe Biden for approving this major disaster declaration for our beloved state of Illinois. This act signifies the recognition of our plight and the steadfast commitment of the federal government in our time of need. I also like to commend Governor Pritzker for his swift response and decisive leadership throughout this season of unprecedented storms. In moments of crisis, it's leaders like him that make all the difference. And to our Mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, thank you for your intentional, pragmatic, and thoughtful leadership, as well as the aldermen that support Mayor Johnson's mission. To President Preckwinkle, your immediate action driven by a deep-rooted concern for the people of Cook County has not gone unnoticed. Your leadership is a beacon of hope in our community's darkest hours. Moreover, the dedication shown by the Cook County Department of Emergency Management and Regional Security, especially under the capable leadership of Ted Berger, deserves special mention today. Their relentless efforts have been instrumental in mitigating the after effects of this disaster. I'm proud to stand alongside my fellow commissioners, Frank Aguilar and Tara Stamps. Each has been a pillar of strength and commitment, ensuring our community can lean on us when it matters most. As many of you know, the storm that raged between June 29th and July 2nd left historic damage in its wake. Notably, our brothers and sisters in the Southland also bore the brunt of its ferocity, as well as this area that I was born and raised in. Families were affected and businesses were devastated. However, with federal disaster assistance now in place, a glimmer of hope is on the horizon. This assistance will be a lifeline for countless individuals and small businesses, allowing them to rebuild their lives. These funds will not only repair homes and properties, but will prove that the government is ready, willing, and able to be there for its most vulnerable residents in their time of need. Moreover, the provision for hazard mitigation measures ensures that Cook County becomes more resilient and better prepared for future challenges. I would like to acknowledge Mr. Andrew Frand, the Federal Coordinating Officer for the recovery operations. We look forward to working hand in hand with you and ensuring that every aid reaches its rightful recipient. I would also like to recognize IEMA as well in this mission. To everyone affected, you've heard this before. We urge you to tap into the available resources, whether it's registering online at www.disasterassistance.com. I'm sorry, disasterassistance.gov, G-O-V. Calling 1-800-621-3362 or using the FEMA app. Help is just a few clicks or a call away. Cook County has always been a symbol of resilience and unity. Together, we'll rebuild more robustly than before, forging a brighter tomorrow from today's adversities. Thank you. And next, I would like to introduce my colleague, Commissioner Tara Stamps.
Good afternoon. I'd first like to say this is what servant leadership looks like. This is what it means when we do better together. I stand before you today with a heavy heart that has been lightened by the swift response and the support that we have received. The Austin community has a rich history with a vibrant culture and resilient residents, and we've called upon that resiliency in this moment. Yet it is a community that has faced its fair share of challenges over the years, including disinvestment and neglect. The recent flooding has added yet another layer of adversity to the lives of our neighbors, many of whom are elderly and have limited resources to cope with such emergencies. I want to take this moment to extend my deepest gratitude, first and foremost, to our neighbors who we called on in this moment, where we did practice neighbor-to-neighbor support while we waited for our help to come. I want to say a special thank you to our governor, to our mayor, to President Pretwinkle, and certainly to all elected officials, especially President Biden, for his approval of disaster relief funding in the response to this calamity. The President's recognition of the dire situation that our community faces exemplifies the unity and support that can change and emerge during a time of crisis. This funding not only help us to rebuild the damaged homes and the infrastructure, but also provide crucial resources to aid our elderly residents and vulnerable populations who have been severely impacted by this tragedy. I am humbled and moved to the outpouring of support we've witnessed from local organizations, volunteers, and neighboring communities. This is a true testament to the power of solidarity and the shared commitment to help our fellow citizens in their time of need. Let us not forget that we are not alone in this journey to recovery. As we move forward, let us remember that our strength lies in the ability of us to come together as a community. We must ensure that our resources provided are distributed equitably, focusing on those who are most in need. We will work tirelessly to rebuild what has been lost and to create a more resilient Austin community for future generations. In closing, I want to reiterate my gratitude to the President, other government agencies, my fellow electeds, and all those who have extended a helping hand during this trying time. The road to recovery may be long, but I have faith in our community's resilience and determination will see us through. Together, we will rebuild, uplift, and restore the Austin community. And now, I would like to introduce one of our very own neighbors who this flood devastated her home daycare, Miss Mary Murphy, and immediately following we will be open for questions and answers. Thank you so much. You can say yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mary Murphy, and I am a child care provider in the Austin neighborhood and a member of the SEIU Healthcare. I'm here to talk to you about the impact of the flooding on child care providers like me and the importance of this funding from the federal government. When school is closed during the summer, home child care provider like me provide a safe place for children to go. In my home, I usually use the basement for after-school programming. And when the storms happened this July, I got 4 feet of water in my basement. And I had carpet destroyed, books and bookshelves ruined, games and clothes damaged. I wasn't the only one in the weeks after the storm. We heard from hundreds of other union members who were impacted by this flooding. Many had to close their daycare home, and like me, spending countless days and dollars cleaning and sanitize our facility. We had to pay out of our own pockets to get our homes back into the shape so that children could return. And as it is, home child care providers are barely paid enough to get by or have a saving to cushion us for this kind of situation. So this was a big challenge. Family depends on me to care for their children and keep them safe. And closing because of disaster like this mean parents don't have a place to take their children while they go to work or school. It also means child care providers take a hit financially, and many even have to close. And we know there is a shortage of providers to meet the needs of family and children in this state. I've been doing child care for 23 years. It took me time to build my program, to get the education and training I need to provide a safe and place for children to learn. These unexpected disasters like flooding impact me and the children I care for in a major way. In my home, I'm still cleaning up the damage, and I have not had the access to my basement since the storm. That means my school-aged children don't have a place to relax, to play games, and to learn together. With school starting next week, I'm still not sure I have the space ready for them. I talked to other child care providers who lost furniture and others who was dealing with broken hot water heaters. Some providers have water up to their knees.